There is a kind of mistake that even the wisest among us make. Not a mistake in logic, not a flaw in judgment, but a mistake in who we choose to help. We live in a world where kindness is praised, where we're told to always lend a hand, to never turn our back. But what if I told you that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to walk away? In the pursuit of helping others, we often end up carrying weight that isn't ours to bear, draining our energy and sacrificing our peace for people who aren't willing to change. In Stoicism, there's a powerful lesson. We cannot control others, but we can control how we respond. Every time you try to save someone who refuses to rise on their own, you're surrendering your own power. So today, we're diving into the types of people you must never save, the ones who will only drag you down with them. These aren't just toxic people, they're energy thieves, and learning how to recognize them can be the first step toward reclaiming your peace and your strength. If you're ready to stop carrying others' burdens and start living with purpose, consider subscribing so that you commit to your own growth, your own wisdom, and embracing the Stoic mindset that will help you navigate life's challenges with clarity. 1. The chronically lazy. Let's talk about the chronically lazy. These are the people who somehow find a way to drain your energy without lifting a single finger. They'll tell you their life is hard, that they're struggling, but when you look closer, you realize they're not really doing anything to improve their situation. They've got an endless stream of complaints, each one sounding like they're just on the edge of change, but they never actually take action. It's a cycle of self-pity that never ends, and unfortunately it's easy to fall into the trap of helping them. After all, their struggles seem so real, don't they? They might even make you feel like you're the only one who can help them. You want to believe that if you just give a little more, they'll turn it around. They'll finally take the leap toward progress. But the truth is, the more you give, the more they take. And in the end, they remain exactly where they are. Here's the uncomfortable reality. When you help someone who isn't willing to help themselves, you're not showing compassion, you're enabling their dependence. They aren't grateful for your efforts. They feel entitled to your time, your energy, your resources. They'll keep coming back, pulling at your heartstrings, using guilt and pity as tools to get you to do more for them. And no matter how much you do, it's never enough. They'll always need more, because the core issue isn't that they need help. It's that they refuse to change. They'd rather lean on you than face the discomfort of taking responsibility for their own lives. It's tempting to think you're helping them. After all, you're being a good person, right? You're being kind. But what happens when kindness crosses the line into enabling? What happens when your compassion starts to hold them back? You see, kindness doesn't always mean giving more. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is step back and let them face the consequences of their inaction. That doesn't mean abandoning them. It means giving them the space to learn on their own. It's hard. It might feel cold, even cruel. But letting someone hit their own bottom is sometimes the only way for them to realize that they need to change. I'm not saying we should stop helping people altogether. Of course not. But we have to be wise about where we invest our energy. The Stoics taught us to focus on what's within our control. It's not within your control to force someone to change. You can guide them, offer support, but you can't carry their weight forever. Eventually, if you're not careful, you'll end up draining yourself and burning out, all while they stay stuck in their cycle of laziness. As Marcus Aurelius said, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Sometimes, being a good person means knowing when to stop giving, and when to let someone else stand on their own 2 feet. It's hard to walk away when you know someone is struggling, but if they're not making the effort to help themselves, your constant support only feeds their dependency. And what does that teach them? It teaches them that they don't have to change because someone else will always step in. The longer you enable their laziness, the longer they remain in a state of stagnation, waiting for you to fix things for them. But you can't fix someone who doesn't want to fix themselves. If you're constantly putting out their fires, they never learn how to extinguish them on their own. It might feel wrong, even selfish, to pull away. But in reality, you're giving them something far more valuable than a temporary fix. You're giving them the opportunity to take responsibility. If they can't make the effort to stand up on their own, then maybe it's time to let them stumble a bit. As hard as it is to watch someone fall, sometimes that's the moment that will spark the change they need. The Stoics believed that adversity was a powerful teacher. It's in those moments of struggle that we grow. If you constantly shield someone from the consequences of their laziness, you're robbing them of that chance to grow. If you find yourself carrying someone who's never even trying to walk, it's time to take a step back. Let them face the pain of their choices. Let them feel the sting of their own inaction. Only then, when they realize that no one will always be there to catch them, might they find the motivation to change. It's not easy, but it's necessary. Your kindness isn't doing them a favor if it's only holding them in their comfortable place of inaction. So ask yourself, is your help really helping, or is it just postponing the inevitable? Let them fall, and maybe, just maybe, they'll rise. 2. The ungrateful. Let's talk about the ungrateful ones. These are the people who will take everything you give without a second thought. You give them your time, your energy, your love, and yet, when they've drained you dry, they won't hesitate to complain about what you didn't do. It's as though no matter how much you sacrifice, it's never enough. They take and take, but the moment you stop giving, they turn on you. They'll accuse you of not being there for them, of not caring enough. It's like pouring water into a glass that has no bottom. No matter how much you give, it just drains away, leaving you empty and them unfulfilled. These are the people who never truly understand the value of what you've done for them. They take it for granted, as if you owe them. It doesn't matter how much you've sacrificed. They act like you're obligated to give more. You help them rise, you lend a hand, but they only see it as their due. They expect more and more, and when you finally run out of steam, when you finally say no, they'll find a way to make you feel guilty about it. You'll hear things like, "I thought you cared," or "Why won't you help me anymore?" And in that moment, you'll realize that their sense of entitlement has swallowed up any appreciation they might have ever had. What's even more painful is the fact that this kind of behavior is often subtle. It's not always obvious at first. They might seem grateful when you first help, but over time it becomes clear that gratitude wasn't the goal. It was simply the starting point to get more. The moment you stop being a constant source of support, their gratitude fades, and so does the bond between you. It's a tough pill to swallow, but you have to recognize that not everyone will appreciate your kindness. And sometimes it's not about you, it's about their inability to see the value of what you're offering. It's crucial to protect your energy, because it's not unlimited. The Stoics remind us that we cannot control the actions of others, but we can control how we respond. You might have the best intentions, but if someone doesn't recognize or appreciate those intentions, you're simply feeding into their sense of entitlement. True kindness comes from understanding when to say no. It's not about being selfish. It's about knowing your limits, protecting your peace, and understanding that your kindness shouldn't be exploited. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." The same principle applies to our emotional energy. It's not about giving everything you have to everyone who asks. It's about being mindful of where your energy goes and who you give it to. The ungrateful, by their nature, will always want more. But there comes a point when you have to recognize that their needs will never end, and you can't keep filling a glass with no bottom. there's a deep lesson in this. You may feel guilty when you walk away from someone who's ungrateful, especially if you've spent so much time helping them. But in reality, walking away is the most respectful thing you can do for both of you. For them, it's a chance to see that they can't always rely on others to fill their needs. For you, it's a way to preserve your own well-being. If you keep giving to someone who doesn't appreciate it, you're not helping them. You're enabling them to remain stuck in a place of entitlement. When you walk away, you're not abandoning them. You're simply saying, I can't be the one to fix this for you. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is to step back and let someone face the reality of their actions. The truth is, if they truly valued your help, they would show it with respect and gratitude. If they're not capable of doing that, then your kindness is just an open door for them to walk through as long as you allow it. But once you close that door, you're teaching them that respect must be earned, not demanded. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that we're somehow obligated to be there for everyone who asks for our help, especially when they put on that mask of helplessness or emotional need. But remember this, you don't owe anyone your energy. Your kindness is a gift, not a transaction. And just like any other gift, it should be given thoughtfully, with consideration for its impact. When you give too much to someone who expects it without gratitude, you're robbing them of the chance to develop their own independence and self-respect. True kindness doesn't come from an endless cycle of giving. It comes from knowing when to say no, when to step back, and when to protect your own emotional energy. It's about understanding that you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're constantly giving to someone who takes without appreciation, you're not helping them. You're feeding into their dependency, and you're losing your own sense of self-respect in the process. It's okay to walk away from those who take more than they give. It's not selfish, it's self-respect. And here's the most important part. By protecting yourself, you're not abandoning the ungrateful person. You're showing them respect. You're teaching them that they can't always rely on others to solve their problems. You're teaching them that their actions have consequences and that the world doesn't revolve around them. Your withdrawal is the lesson they need to face. If they truly want to grow, they will need to learn how to stand on their own. So next time you find yourself giving and feeling drained by someone who never seems to appreciate it, remember that it's okay to stop. It's okay to say, I've done enough, and to walk away. You are not responsible for someone else's lack of gratitude. You are only responsible for your own actions and for setting boundaries that protect your peace. True kindness isn't about being there for everyone. It's about knowing who deserves your time and energy and knowing when it's time to say no. It might feel hard at first, but walking away from the ungrateful is the best thing you can do for both of you. By doing so, you give them a chance to grow, and you give yourself the opportunity to preserve your peace and continue to help those who truly appreciate it. You'll feel lighter, stronger, and more empowered as a result. And that's the true power of kindness, knowing when to give and when to walk away. 3. The arrogant. Then we have the arrogant. These are the people who refuse to accept help because in their minds they already know everything. They've got all the answers. They don't need advice. They need validation. They love to argue, to prove their point, to make sure you know just how right they are, no matter how wrong they may be. It's frustrating, isn't it? You can see the path they should take. You can offer them the guidance, but they won't listen. They resist. They reject. They don't care about the truth or the wisdom you're trying to share. They're just addicted to their own ego. For them, it's not about learning or growing. It's about being seen as the one who knows it all. It's tempting, isn't it, to keep pushing, to keep trying to make them see what's obvious to you. You might think that if you just explain it in a different way, they'll finally get it. But here's the thing, the more you try to convince someone who's arrogant, the harder they'll push back. Their walls grow higher the more you try to break them down. The truth is, no matter how much wisdom you have, it's wasted on them if they're not open to it. And that's a hard truth to swallow, especially when you care about someone. But sometimes you have to recognize that it's not your responsibility to change their mind. If they refuse to listen, all you're doing is wasting your energy. There's something liberating about accepting that not everyone is ready to hear what you have to say. The Stoics believed that our time and energy are limited, and it's not worth trying to convince someone who isn't willing to see the truth. As Epictetus wisely put it, it is not events that disturb people, it is their judgments about them. When you try to force your wisdom onto someone who doesn't want to hear it, you're disturbing your own peace. You're investing your energy in a battle they're not interested in fighting. Instead of trying to change their mind, you're better off conserving your energy and letting them make their own mistakes. The arrogant person doesn't want growth. They don't want to be challenged. They want to feel superior. Every attempt to help them is met with resistance because, in their eyes, accepting help would mean admitting weakness. They'd rather stay stuck in their limited view than risk feeling vulnerable. And that's where you come in, trying to convince them that they're wrong or misguided. But the more you push, the more they dig their heels in. It's a never-ending cycle of resistance that only leads to frustration on your part. You'll never win that battle, and worse, you'll exhaust yourself in the process. So what's the answer? Stop trying to convince them. Stop wasting your precious energy on someone who refuses to listen. If they don't want to hear you, it's not your job to break through their walls. Let them figure it out the hard way. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away and let them experience the consequences of their actions. They need to learn the hard way. Only then will they realize the wisdom you were trying to offer. In a way, you're doing them a disservice by continuing to engage in these fruitless debates. By stepping away, you're giving them the space they need to face reality on their own. Think about it. If you're constantly rescuing them from their mistakes, you're depriving them of the growth that comes from failure. Failure isn't a bad thing. In fact, it's one of the best teachers life can offer. But the arrogant, with their inflated sense of self, will never learn from their failures if you keep stepping in to save them from the fallout. Your wisdom, your perspective, is valuable, but only when it's offered to those who are willing to listen. And the arrogant? They're not in that group. They don't want the truth. They want validation. They want to keep believing that they have it all figured out. So let them fall, because when they do, they'll face the very reality they've been avoiding, and in that moment of realization, they'll remember the wisdom you tried to share. But by then, it will be too late for you to make a difference. They'll have to learn from their mistakes, just as everyone must. It's hard to let go of someone you care about, especially when you know they're making a mistake. But the truth is, there's nothing you can do to change their mind if they're not open to it. The more you try, the more they'll resist. The best thing you can do is let them go and let them fall. It's not a cruel act. It's a lesson in tough love. Sometimes the only way to help someone is to stop helping them. This doesn't mean you stop caring or that you stop offering advice when it's needed, but recognize the difference between someone who's open to growth and someone who just wants to hear their own voice. The arrogant will never learn as long as they think they have all the answers. They don't need more advice. They need to fall so they can see the truth for themselves. Only then will they realize that the wisdom you tried to share was never about being right. It was about helping them see beyond their own limited perspective. In the end, your wisdom is wasted on the arrogant. Your time, your energy, your knowledge, it's all wasted on someone who isn't ready to listen. So, stop giving it away. Let them figure it out on their own. Let them make their own mistakes and learn the hard way. It's the only way they'll ever see the truth. And when they do, they'll remember you. They'll remember the advice you gave, and maybe, just maybe, they'll be humble enough to appreciate it. Until then, focus on those who are ready to listen. They're the ones who will truly benefit from your wisdom. 4. The manipulators. Manipulators are dangerous, but not in the way you might think. They're not always overtly cruel or aggressive. In fact, they can seem quite harmless, even charming. They're not trying to overpower you with force. Instead, they use something far more subtle, your emotions. Manipulators are experts at playing on your sympathies, twisting them into guilt, and making you believe that you're the only one who can help them. They cry, they beg, they make you feel like you're the hero of their story, and before you know it, you're running in circles, trying to fix problems that weren't even yours to begin with. You're exhausted, drained, and yet you can't seem to break free. You might think you're doing the right thing. After all, they make it seem like they need you. They present themselves as helpless, as if the world is against them, and you're their last hope. It's easy to fall into this trap because, on some level, you want to help. You want to be the person who can make a difference. But here's the painful truth. You're not actually helping them. You're being manipulated into doing their emotional heavy lifting, and the more you give, the more they take. The more you try to fix their problems, the deeper they drag you into their mess. What starts as a genuine attempt to help turns into a cycle of emotional manipulation, and you're left wondering where all your energy went. One of the hardest parts about dealing with manipulators is that they often make you feel like you're the one in the wrong. They'll make you feel guilty for setting boundaries or for saying no. "Why don't you care about me?" they'll ask, or "I thought you were my friend." They'll twist your words, play on your insecurities, and make you second-guess your own decisions. And if you're not careful, you'll start questioning whether you're being too harsh, too selfish, or too cold. But the truth is, they're not asking for help. They're asking for control. Manipulators thrive on emotional dependency. They need you to feel obligated to rescue them, so they can continue taking without ever giving anything in return. This is where the problem lies. They make you believe that helping them is your responsibility, when in reality, it's not. They turn your kindness into a weapon against you. It's not out of malice. It's out of a deep need for validation and control. They need to make you feel like they can't survive without you. But the truth is, they've been surviving just fine by using people like you. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And in dealing with manipulators, you have to start by becoming clear on who you truly are, and what you will and won't tolerate. The first step in protecting yourself from manipulators is recognizing when it's happening. You have to be able to spot the signs of emotional manipulation early. If someone is constantly making you feel guilty for setting boundaries, that's a huge red flag. If they're always playing the victim, always crying for help, but never actually making any effort to change, you're dealing with a manipulator. And that's when you need to step back. When you stop reacting to their emotional outbursts, you take back control of your life. You stop being a puppet to their strings, and you start protecting your peace. The more you give, the more they'll take. And the more they take, the more you'll lose yourself. Setting boundaries is one of the hardest things to do with a manipulator, especially if you care about them or feel sorry for them. But remember, your emotional energy is your power. You can't afford to let someone drain it dry, not for their sake, but for your own. If you're constantly giving, you will end up empty. You won't have anything left for yourself, and that's when they win. You've let them take everything. It's not selfish to protect yourself from someone who wants to use you for their own emotional gain. It's necessary. When you say no, Don't apologize. Don't explain yourself away. When you set boundaries with a manipulator, they will push back. They will try to make you feel guilty, make you question whether you're doing the right thing. But the truth is, when you stop reacting, you take back control. You stop giving them the power to dictate your emotions, your time, your life. You are in charge of your own energy, and it's your responsibility to guard it. The more you react to their demands, the more power you give them. It's like feeding into a fire. It only grows stronger. But when you stop reacting, when you stop engaging in their emotional games, you begin to starve that fire. They'll try to provoke you, try to get under your skin, but if you don't bite, they lose their power. You're not being cold, you're being smart. You're protecting yourself. There's a great lesson in Stoicism about controlling our reactions. Epictetus once said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." In this context, we can't control the manipulator's behavior, but we can control how we react. If we continue to react with guilt, fear, or anger, we're only reinforcing their power over us. But if we stop reacting, we start regaining our power. Remember, manipulators thrive on chaos and confusion. They want to keep you in a state of emotional turbulence where you're constantly second-guessing yourself and questioning your decisions. They want you to feel responsible for their feelings. They want to make you believe that without you, they'd be lost. But the truth is, they don't need you. They need someone they can control, and that someone doesn't have to be you. In the end, the best thing you can do for a manipulator is to stop enabling their behavior. Let them face the consequences of their actions. Let them find their own way. You're not responsible for their happiness or their struggles. Your only responsibility is to yourself. And by setting firm boundaries, you're not only protecting your peace, you're teaching them that they can't rely on anyone else to carry their emotional burdens. You'll find that when you stop reacting to manipulators, life becomes a lot clearer. You'll regain your emotional balance, your sense of self, and your peace of mind. And when you look back, you'll see how much energy you were wasting on someone who never truly needed your help in the first place. It's not your job to rescue people from their own consequences. And once you realize that, you'll be free. Free from the emotional manipulation, free from the guilt, and free to invest your energy in things that actually deserve it. 5. The evil and cruel. Let's talk about the evil and cruel ones, the people who choose to hurt others. These individuals are different. They know exactly what they're doing, and they do it with intention. It's not a mistake or an accident. They hurt others, sometimes for fun, sometimes for control, and sometimes just because it gives them power. It's easy to want to believe that no one would choose to be cruel, but the sad truth is that some people do. They don't care about your feelings or anyone else's. All they care about is maintaining their dominance, even if it means stepping on others to get there. At first glance, it can be hard to understand why anyone would choose to be this way. We like to believe that deep down, everyone has some kind of good in them. But with these people, it's different. They might pretend to care. They might even show you a softer side when it's convenient. But make no mistake, these actions aren't random. They're calculated. These people have learned to use cruelty as a tool. They've mastered the art of manipulating others for their own gain, and the more you try to help them, the more you enable their destructive behavior. By stepping in and offering your support, you're not saving them. You're becoming complicit in their actions. You're not helping them rise. You're helping them continue to hurt others. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." What Jung meant by this is that some people are able to look at their actions, their desires, and their shadow selves without the intention of changing. They accept their cruelty and wear it as part of who they are. And once they do that, it becomes even more dangerous, because they're no longer trying to hide it. They're embracing it. They enjoy it. They see others as tools to manipulate, and their conscience doesn't stop them. They aren't seeking redemption or growth. They're seeking power, dominance, and control over others. What's worse is that they know how to play on your empathy. They know how to get you to feel sorry for them. They might act like they're the victims, making you believe that they need saving. But here's the thing. Helping someone who has no intention of changing their ways isn't compassion. It's enabling. You're not saving them. You're feeding into the cycle of harm. You might think that if you just give them one more chance, or show them a little more love, they'll change. But that's not the truth. People who choose cruelty aren't looking for help. They're looking for validation of their behavior. They want to keep doing what they do without consequences. And the longer you try to fix them, the more you get wrapped up in their darkness. It's crucial to recognize that not every person can or should be saved. Some people need consequences, not compassion. If you continue to give them a free pass, you're just enabling their toxic behavior. When someone has actively chosen to hurt others, they need to face the repercussions of their actions. If you protect them from those consequences, you're only perpetuating their harm and allowing them to continue their destructive cycle. In fact, your kindness to them is just a shield that helps them hide from the reality of their own actions. It's time to stop wasting your energy on people who actively choose to cause harm. The Stoics had a clear understanding of what it meant to show true compassion. They believed that compassion should never come at the expense of your own well-being or the well-being of others. Marcus Aurelius famously said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." What this means is that the best way to deal with evil isn't by trying to save or redeem it, but by simply not engaging in it. Your kindness and compassion cannot save someone who enjoys causing pain. The most powerful thing you can do in these situations is step back, protect your energy, and allow them to face the consequences of their actions. By stepping away, you stop giving them power over you. You stop feeding into their cruelty. You might feel guilty at first. After all, it's hard to walk away from someone who's in pain, even if that pain is self-inflicted or caused by their own actions. But the truth is, when you help someone who actively chooses cruelty, you're only participating in the cycle. You're not fixing them. You're enabling them to continue on their destructive path. The more you try to protect them from the consequences of their actions, the more you become a part of the darkness they've created. You might think that by helping them, you're offering redemption, but all you're really doing is enabling their behavior to continue. So what should you do when you encounter someone who chooses cruelty? The best thing you can do is step away. Withdraw your support and your energy. Don't engage in their games. Don't try to fix them. And don't allow yourself to be a part of their toxic cycle. When you stop reacting to their cruelty, you stop giving them control. You stop being a source of energy for them to feed off of. This is one of the hardest lessons to learn, because it's not easy to walk away from someone who's so skilled at manipulation. But by stepping back, you give them the space they need to face their own actions and to face the consequences of those actions. Your kindness isn't going to change someone who has decided to stay in darkness. Instead of trying to save them, let them fall. Let them face the truth of what they've done. It's not your responsibility to carry the weight of their cruelty. And if you keep carrying it, you'll find yourself lost under the weight of their darkness. Protect your soul from being tainted by their actions. Let them face the world as it is, not as you wish it could be for them. Only then will they have a chance to confront the consequences of their cruelty. Your compassion is meant to be a gift, not a burden. It's meant to uplift and inspire, not to drain you of everything you have. When you give your energy to people who actively choose to hurt others, you're losing sight of that purpose. You're giving away your power, your peace, and your happiness to someone who has no intention of changing. Recognize when it's time to stop giving, when it's time to walk away, and when it's time to protect your soul from the darkness of those who would do harm. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. The only thing you can do is let them face the consequences of their choices, and let them learn the lessons that kindness alone will never teach. 6. The ignorant who refuse to learn. Let's talk about the ignorant ones, the ones who refuse to learn. These are the people who seem to be stuck in a never-ending loop, repeating the same mistakes over and over, but always blaming everyone and everything else except themselves. It's as though they're completely blind to the patterns in their lives, to the cause and effect of their actions. They don't see that their own choices are leading them down the same destructive path time and time again. And what's worse, they don't even want to see it. They're not interested in learning or growing. They're stuck in their comfort zone, refusing to change, because deep down, they don't believe they have to. You've probably encountered people like this before. No matter how much you try to help them, no matter how many times you try to point out where they're going wrong, they just don't listen. They get defensive, they make excuses, or they simply ignore the advice you give. It's frustrating, isn't it? You can see so clearly what they need to do to fix their situation, and yet they're not willing to take a single step in that direction. It's like trying to help someone who's holding a map in their hands but refuses to look at it. They're determined to keep walking in circles, and no matter how many times you offer them a way out, they won't take it. Carl Jung once said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." The ignorant are the perfect example of this. They can talk a good game, they can promise change, they can say all the right things, but when it comes down to action, nothing changes. They keep making the same mistakes, the same bad decisions, and instead of taking responsibility, they look for someone else to blame. They refuse to take ownership of their lives, and that refusal keeps them trapped in a cycle of self-destruction. They may say they want to change, but in reality, they don't. Because if they truly wanted change, they would be doing the hard work of looking inward and learning from their mistakes. But instead, they continue to repeat the same behaviors, expecting different results. The reality is, you can't force someone to learn. No matter how much you care about them, no matter how badly you want to help them see their own blind spots, if they're not ready to face their mistakes, you're just wasting your time. You can offer them all the wisdom in the world, but if they're not open to it, it won't make a difference. In fact, the more you try to intervene, the more they'll resist. They'll dig their heels in and convince themselves that they don't need to change, that their problems are the result of bad luck, or that it's everyone else's fault. They'll continue to cling to their ignorance because, deep down, it's easier for them to blame the world than to take a hard look at themselves. In these situations, the best thing you can do is let life teach them. As much as it hurts to watch someone you care about stumble, sometimes the only way they'll learn is through the consequences of their own actions. When you try to shield someone from the results of their mistakes, you're robbing them of the opportunity to grow. You're stopping them from experiencing the lessons that can only come from hitting rock bottom. It's not cruel, it's necessary. You can't help someone who refuses to help themselves, no matter how much you wish you could. At some point, you have to accept that their journey is their own, and you can't force them to take the path they're not ready to walk. It's easy to feel like you're abandoning someone when you step back, but that's not what you're doing. What you're really doing is setting a boundary that says, I will not waste my time and energy on someone who isn't willing to change. You're showing them respect by letting them take responsibility for their own growth. You're not abandoning them. You're teaching them that they need to face the consequences of their actions if they want to make a change. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is walk away and let them figure it out on their own. This might be one of the hardest things to do, especially if you care deeply about the person. It's tough to watch someone self-destruct, knowing that you could help them if they'd just listen. But the truth is, you're not doing them any favors by stepping in all the time. You're enabling their ignorance. The more you try to fix things for them, the more you reinforce the idea that they don't need to change. They learn nothing from their mistakes because someone else is always there to clean up the mess. And while that might feel good in the short term, it only delays the inevitable. Eventually, they'll hit a point where no one can step in, and that's when the real pain will begin. But it will be their pain to carry, and hopefully it will be the turning point that finally pushes them to change. The Stoics believed in taking responsibility for our own actions and understanding that we cannot control the actions of others. They taught that we should focus on what we can control, our own behavior and our own responses to the world. Trying to change someone who refuses to change is outside of your control. You can't force someone to take ownership of their mistakes, and if they're not willing to do the work themselves, you're only wasting your energy. Focus on what you can control, which is how you respond. And when it comes to the ignorant who refuse to learn, sometimes the best response is to step back and let them experience the consequences of their own decisions. Don't be afraid to walk away from those who aren't ready to change. It's not your responsibility to fix them. You can't help someone who refuses to help themselves. The more you try, the more you lose your own peace in the process. It's difficult, but in the long run, stepping back is the most respectful thing you can do for both of you. Let them face their mistakes, let them learn from their failures, and if they're truly ready to change, they will. But you can't force that. You can only control your own actions, and you have to be willing to accept that sometimes the best thing you can do is let them figure it out on their own. It's okay to let go. It's okay to stop giving your time and energy to someone who isn't ready to take responsibility for their life. You don't have to carry their weight. In fact, by stepping away, you're showing them respect. Respect for their journey, and respect for your own well-being. You can't make them change, but you can protect yourself from the emotional toll of watching them stumble without taking responsibility for their actions. Your energy is precious, and it's worth preserving for those who are ready to learn, grow, and change. Let life teach them what you cannot. Remember, you can't change anyone who isn't ready to change. Protect your energy, set your boundaries, and let life teach the lessons that kindness alone can't. You're not responsible for their growth, but you are responsible for your peace. So, choose wisely where you invest your time and energy. If this resonated with you, and you're ready to take control of your life, click on one of the videos on the screen now for more insights. Thank you for being part of Stoic Journal. Keep growing, keep evolving, and keep protecting your peace.